Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Cool Vibes with Key. I'm your host, Kiara, aka Key, and thank you for joining me this week for Misinformation and Disinformation. So, what are they? How are they different? What is their impact, their potential impact, and how to spot them? So, let's just jump right into it. Misinformation and disinformation at their core are the same thing. They are the spreading of incorrect information. However, the key difference comes when you throw in the intent. So, misinformation can kind of be equated to a mistake. It's a mishearing, a missaying, or a mistelling of an event, fact, or statistic. Whereas disinformation is purposeful, and it's usually done with intent to cause harm. At its core, disinformation is propaganda. It is a tool. It's also known as yellow journalism. So, misinformation and disinformation are technically legal. The only time that you cross a legal boundary is when you use disinformation to cause harm to a person's reputation by spreading false information. As long as you avoid that, anything is fair. And now, what comes into play is the idea of journalistic integrity and the level that journalists hold themselves to when they are reporting, an idea of a reporting standard. So, what checks and balances has this information gone through? And what we're seeing, especially now more than ever, is that journalistic integrity is at an all-time low. What can be published and consumed by the masses, the bar to publish is very low. So, where we are seeing this is often in wars. And so, we're going to get into the impact in just a minute. But to even draw on recent examples, looking at Russia and Ukraine, we see Russian media being controlled by the government, and they're putting out this narrative to the Russian people that this war is good, this war is for a reason. Ukraine is Russia to them. But everyone outside looking in, we know this isn't true. Ukraine is a strong country. They have their own government, they have their own people, their own culture, their own language. Russia can't just come in and say, oh, this is ours now. And we're seeing a similar thing done by Hamas with Israel and Palestine. And that is also a very incredibly sensitive topic due to the impacts of anti-Semitism that we're seeing both in Israel as well as even within the United States and other countries throughout Europe and the world at large. So let's talk about the impact of misinformation and disinformation. The first impact, and all of these snowball into each other, is the erasure of the facts and what actually happened with this false information. So how this happens is you have this piece that was shared purposefully, and now it just keeps being shared. So what actually happened isn't getting the attention, and when it is, people are saying, well, I've already heard the facts. This is what I've been told is the facts, so this is what I'm going to believe is the facts. So this is what happened. I don't care about what they're saying about what happened, because it can't be true. Because oftentimes, once people are presented with a set of facts, it's very hard to sway their opinion any other way. So this snowballs, and it keeps going. And the larger it becomes, the harder it is to correct. Because it's harder to go down the chain and say, oh, well, here's actually what happened, and here's all of the proof. Now go tell the people that you already told. It's harder to self-correct. You're always going to miss someone because those people have already told more people. And especially with social media now more than ever, it's easier to spread information, whether false or true. And so this has a threefold impact. It has an impact on public opinion, public viewpoint, and public trust. This has an impact on public opinion and viewpoint, and those go hand in hand with each other. Because you have this disinformation that is being spread as a fact, and it's being spread to a whole bunch of people. And when you do that, those people are going to start changing how they think because of this new information they've been told. So people's view is now, oh, if I looked at it this way, and I just learned that this is the best way to look at things, I'm now going to look at the world that way. And this impacts people's public opinion because now they've been told, well, this is how you should feel about it. And they're like, you're right, this is how I should feel about it. So it just kind of falls into each other. And then you have the idea of its impact on public trust, where if they do find out that the media either purposefully misled them or maybe not so purposefully, but spread unverified claims too fast, that is going to erode public trust. The public trust in both media and the sources that they're getting it from, as well as the government that has allowed this to happen. So it has this big impact on societies. And this can be either very locally, can be seen statewide. We've seen it nationwide with the election, how we saw a lot of issues with journalism then. We're seeing it now. We've seen it in the 60s. And we'll keep seeing it until we put something in place. But now let's talk about the potential and the potential impact of if this falls into the wrong hands, what can happen? So since there aren't set laws against disinformation, there is a lot of potential for harm. And now more than ever, with all of these all of the rises in technology and all of these advancements that we're making, while they're amazing and they're good and they can help people's lives become easier, there is a great deal of harm, especially when it comes to things like AI. And AI has taken the processing speed of code. Anyone who's in tech knows running code can take a really long time. Your computer's going through each line and it's processing each line in whatever processing system, using whatever language, and it's doing those things step by step. And so some code takes a really long time to load. And one of the most substantial breakthroughs of AI was this idea of quantum computing and quantum processing. This idea of making a computer essentially run through all of these processes simultaneously, pulling from all of these databases simultaneously. So while it might take ChatGPT, 45 seconds to, 2 minutes to come up with the answer to whatever you said, that's still a lot faster than any human can. And the replication rate that you can get from ChatGPT is what's really important. So why is this important? You can just keep writing. I need 20 papers. Here's what I want them to say. Here's the ideas I want them to convey. I want them written in this tone of voice, and from this point of view. And the more you think about that, the more dangerous that can become. So to combat that, if we want to mitigate some of this harm, we need proper legislation and proper regulation for both the internet and AI, and to take it a step further on disinformation and misinformation. Because at large, these tools can be very powerful, whether good or bad. And it's up to us to take the proper steps to make sure that we are getting the best news quality possible. So now that we've kind of talked about what misinformation and disinformation are, how can we spot these? And so I've gone through, of course, in my little journal and written some different ways to spot misinformation and disinformation. And it's important to note that you can't spot misinformation and disinformation if you believe that there is a high quality for journalistic integrity and standards. What used to be a simple check of information, this is a credible source and it's written by a good author, that's no longer enough anymore. What turned into, oh, you just need to get information from both ends of, the spectrum of reporting, left leaning and right leaning, has turned into more than that. So when you're getting your information, what steps should you be taking to make sure that you are getting the right information and the facts? So one of the ways to spot bias within the media that you are consuming is looking for this idea. It's called spin. And so what is this? This is vague, dramatic, and sensational language. So these ideas are going to come up a lot. Why? Because most of the bias is going to play into these ideas. Whether they're leaving things out, they're dramatizing what's happening, or they're sensationalizing it and playing to your emotions and trying to make it viral, make it replicable. So, some things that you can look for, some phrases, and of course, I'm going to have resources for more phrases for you to look into. But the latest string of, or this emerged, this came to light, this person lashed out, they were cold. Things, they're little things, they're very small phrases. But once you know to look for them, it can be really easy to spot them. Another thing that we see is unsubstantiated claims. And a spin-off of that would also be opinions being presented as facts. So both of these kind of go hand in hand with each other. So unsubstantiated claims is just saying, here's what happened. I don't really have a source, or maybe my source isn't that good. So, this is what happened at this event, and I got it from news source A. And news source A is known for not having the best journalistic integrity. Well, that's an unsubstantiated claim that you're making. You're saying, well, this is what happened because I got this information from this source. Not a good source. And no other source can verify what's going on. And opinions being presented as facts kind of spins off of this idea, but instead uses that it's language. So they'll say things like, it's likely that, it may mean that, it would seem that. So they're not quite sure what's going on. Or things aren't quite adding up. And they are very similar ideas, and they're important to look for. And so the next one would be sensationalism and emotional language. how are they presenting this information to me? Are they presenting this information to me in a calm, reporting, structured manner where they're saying, this is what happened, here's the news sources or journalistic sources that I got this from? Or are they saying, here's what we think happened and here's how you should feel, and everyone should know about this and care about this? Those are two very different ways of reporting, and it's important to be able to make that differentiation. So another, way that they will get away with this is called mudslinging, or it's also known as an ad hominem. And so this is said to damage a person's reputation. It's an attack on a person's motives or traits instead of their content and their idea. So you're assuming, you're applying, you're saying this person shouldn't be listened to because they're not a good person because they support this, or don't listen to them because of this, instead of going to their core argument and saying, you shouldn't listen to this argument because this is wrong, this is misrepresented. So you can see that very subtle change in language and presenting can be very dangerous. Another one is mind reading. So here's what they said, and here's who they are because of what they said, without interviewing that person. There's a bug. I have to go kill it. Hold on. All right, y'all. I'm back. I did not find the bug. I'm very scared. It was very large. That's why I kept looking over if you're watching the video on YouTube or Spotify. I'm a little scared, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just gonna act like it didn't happen. Anyways, we were just talking about mind reading. So applying your view of that person to them. And finally, the last one that I have on this list, and of course I'm going to share where I got these from, as well as a couple other resources to encourage you to read, but cherry picking ideas. So this is also called slant. And so this comes into play when you have, let's say all of the facts or a retelling of an event, and you're saying, this applies to what I want to say, and this applies. But this fact, it doesn't, it kind of hurts my argument, or it doesn't add to my argument, so I'm just not going to say it. It's purposefully leaving things out. And so a good rule of thumb when you are going through and you're reading news articles, think to yourself, how does this make me feel? How is this being presented to me? Where are they getting their information from? These are all really good questions to be asking yourself, on top of the questions that you should already be asking yourself. Does this have, obvious bias towards one side or the other? Is this a credible source? And am I doing my due diligence? Because that's what it really comes down to, is we all need to take those steps to make sure that we're getting good information. And so we just went over misinformation and disinformation and not being able to verify what's real and what's fake online. And so it can be very disheartening. Well, if I have to do all of this work, what's the point? Well, the point is being informed, is being in control. Having information is having power. The more facts that you can find out, the better picture you can get. So as you're piecing together information from different sources, think of it like a puzzle. And misinformation and disinformation is going to cloud your final image. And you don't want that. So you want to make sure that you're getting those good puzzle pieces that are going to help you create a clear picture. So you want to make sure that you're getting those unbiased sources that are focused on a high standard of journalistic quality. And so I love to share resources on my Instagram and on my LinkedIn of people that I know that are doing those checks, that are holding themselves to that reporting standard and education standard. But I hope that everyone checks out some of the links of my readings in the bio. And of course, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm doing this to spark conversations. I hope that this makes you think and that you do your own research. Because, like I've said, this year, my motto is read and grow. So I want everyone here to read and grow and read the full list of ways to spot bias. The resources that I'm going to show also will go into some examples of these at play in the media that we are consuming today. And spotting them and learning how to spot them can really be a game changer in how you form your own opinion. So I encourage everyone to do their own research. I am a stepping stone. I am a resource, but I am a stepping stone. But thank you guys for joining me on talking about misinformation and disinformation. If you like what I do and you like what I talk about, I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and all those other fun social media places. That link will also be in the bio. And check out my new logo for the Overachiever's Guide to the Corporate World. That's over on my LinkedIn and possibly my Instagram. So if you want to see it on there, be sure to turn on my post notifications. And I hope that y'all join me next week. I haven't decided if it's going to be the Overachiever's Guide to the Corporate World or if I'm going to do my episode called Chasing the Illusion of Perfection. So I want to know, what do you guys want to hear next week? I'm going to have a comment if you're on Spotify. I'm going to have a little poll and then a little Q&A like I do every week. But I'll see y'all next week. Bye, guys.